tariffs, recessions, immigration, and Donald Trump. These are the topics of today's video. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Chris Palfrey from Coin Capital. I've been investing and studying financial markets for the last 5 years. I've navigated through the COVID-19 pandemic and capitalized on one of crypto's biggest upswings in the years after. And today, guys, I'll be breaking down exactly that. Donald Trump and his tariffs, immigration policy and what that means for the West. We'll be breaking down these topics with data from some of the biggest names in finance, as well as bits and pieces I've picked up along my journey. So let's get into it. So starting off with the topic of immigration. And I think a lot of people miss the fact that this immigration, especially in the West, is in fact targeted policy. And it's targeted at something very specific, which is trying to offset the declining population of Western countries and around the globe. But for now, let's just focus on the West. And this declining population brings with it declining GDP, so less profit for the country and its business owners. This chart right here that we're looking at, it's nominal GDP overlaid with GDP per capita in Canada specifically. And what we need to understand about nominal GDP is it's a metric that's very easily manipulated. And by manipulated, I'm talking about immigration specifically. Because when you flood the workforce with 500,000 to 1 million new workers every year, you're going to get these short-term expansions of GDP. However, this isn't super sustainable. So this immigration has to be kept ongoing, and it comes with other side effects as well. One of these side effects is capita per GDP stagnating or lagging behind real GDP growth. Or I should say nominal GDP growth. So GDP per capita is how rich and wealthy are the individuals. What we can see in Canada is that the blue line, GDP per capita, is not looking too good compared to nominal. And this is due to what I believe is this immigration policy where all these immigrants are being funneled into low-skilled labor. And when we think of low-skilled labor, I like to think of how does Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Amazon drivers, these kind of jobs contribute to overall GDP compared to something, say, like a data center, hedge funds, oil rigs, commodity producers, energy farms, things of that nature. This is where the offset begins to widen. Even though nominal GDP is going up, nobody is actually getting richer. Because these short bursts of immigration influx are a facade, fugazi. Something to boost nominal, not real. And then when we come to take a look at the Canadian population over the last 5 years, since 2020, when the whole world shut down, the economies halted, grinded to a stop, GDP stopped, essentially, our population was 38 million. Since then, through immigration and what I assume to be some percent of natural births in Canada, we've grown our population to 41 million. And now if you guys live in Canada like I do, it is very clear that there was no investments prior to these influx of immigrants in infrastructure to support this explosion of new residents. And it is showing, it's manifesting itself in a lot of ways. One of them, healthcare. Yes, it's free, but good luck. You'll wait a day to see a practitioner. And then also in these GDP per capita metrics. And now the same thing can be said for the States. States is experiencing something similar. And again, it's a very emotionally charged subject matter down there as well. The reason being is that even though immigration does boost nominal GDP for a short time, it comes with the capita decline, but also the dilution of American and Canadian culture, which can segue us right into the next topic, which is Trump and his tariffs. Trump is a nationalist leader. He has strong American values, which is why when he discusses and talks about immigration, he can be very brash. However, he does understand that with this influx comes dilution. Now, talking about Trump, of course, we need to talk about his tariffs. Of course, it's everywhere in the news. So, tariffs are implied or deployed to garner extra income for a company. That company being a country. You would think that when these tariffs are deployed, it would bring the US into a relatively positive situation, aka like a budget surplus. However, this just in from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office itself. CBO estimates 1.8 trillion deficit for fiscal year 2025. Trump goes on the news, tariffs are extremely well, they're bringing in billions of dollars, multi-billions of dollars, yet the US cannot go a year without blowing a $2 trillion hole in the fucking budget, guys. So on one end, you may hear that tariffs are a huge success. On the other, you may hear they are an absolute disaster. On the success end, just know that there is a $2 trillion hole that these tariffs are trying to paper over. On the flip side, when people talk about tariffs as inflationary, tariffs cause supply chain issues. That is also false, guys. 25% tax on another country does not jam up their fucking supply chain and does not cause inflation. What causes inflation? Let's take a look back at COVID and the US M2 money supply. Oh, look, when you print $6 trillion, the money supply goes vertical and you get double-digit inflation, guys. More units of currency chasing the same amount of goods result in prices increasing and the value of a currency decreasing. On the supply chain issue, same thing. When we printed all that money during COVID, when everyone got their stimulus checks, what did we do? Did we invest in supply chain expansion, in infrastructure to help support that supply chain, in factories, railways, this and that? No. What did we do, guys? We went and bought fucking monkey JPEGs on Solana and gambled all our stimulus on memes, and the boomers probably went to buy bonds. None of that money, well, I shouldn't say none of it, most of that money did not go to productive means. So then, when you have countries that are trying to grow and they demand imports, guess what? The supply chains can't keep up with it because we did not invest it. That is what we call in the Austrian School of Economics misallocation of capital. In fact, a huge misallocation at that. I think one of the main points here, guys, is that there is two sides to every coin, two sides to every narrative. In fact, multiple sides to every narrative, except the news. Your friends, your uncles at Thanksgiving will only give you one side of it. One. Which is why I brought this tweet to wrap up this video from a guy called Young Macro on Twitter. Post some great stuff. Your epistemology is outsourced to prediction markets. Your policy is arbitrated by bond yields. Guys, bear with me here for a second. Your human nature is downstream of the interest rate. Your shelter costs have overridden the reproductive instinct, and your labor market decides how much immigration you get. What does he mean by this? Guys, there are macro forces bigger than the president, bigger than the prime minister, bigger than your local fucking mayor that control your life. And no amount of narrative spun by mainstream media will change that. They will only distort your perspective and lead you further away from the truth. And what I hope to do with this channel is really just help you guys curate a fundamental understanding of macro so you can begin to form your own opinions, make your own decisions away from all the social media, create your own opinions, take different action to step out of this system. Because guys, these macro forces control our lives, and if you are not aware of it, you will be the victim until you die. If you guys enjoyed this video, drop a comment down below, hit that like button, make sure you subscribe as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one.